Good morning. Good morning. This is Patrick Lee. It is time for Midweek Motivation Live. We are live downtown in Amarillo, Texas this morning for today's show. Good to see people already tuning in. It is 10 o'clock. We have a date at this time every week, don't we? Today we're going to be talking about not despising small beginnings. You may not know what that means for sure, but you are going to be able to determine that here in a minute. People already like it and love it. I texted my assistant. We were on the phone, and I said I'm on StreamYard Mobile, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the mic cuts out, and it all depends on internet connection. We seem to have great signal down here, so we're going to rock and roll with this. Thank you for the likes and loves. Don't despise small beginnings. I'm standing on a corner, not in Winslow, Arizona. Standing on a street corner in front of a convenience store down here in downtown Amarillo, Texas. And I want to tell you a story. Facts sell, stories tell, right? I want to tell you a little story about myself, where I came from, and why it's important to where I am today. Last week, many of you watched the show. A lot of people tuning in already. That's awesome. Love that. Last week, I broadcast the show from my mother's front yard in Oregon, little town where I grew up called Bandon, Oregon, and a lot of reminiscing was going on. We had a great visit. We got some work done on my mom's house, and wonderful visit. They're never long enough. My dad, many of you know, my dad passed away last year, and so relationship-wise with my dad, there was never any animosity between me and my dad. I love my dad. My dad loved me. I moved to Texas when I was 20 years old. I started working in high school at a local fish store, a restaurant, a seafood restaurant as a dishwasher when I was 14 years old. I wanted money to do the things that I wanted to do. We were a lower middle class family at the time, 5 kids and a big house out in the country, and I wanted money, things that my parents couldn't afford. I never resented my parents for that. I simply knew if I wanted to have the things that I wanted in life, I was going to have to work for them myself. So work ethic was one of the things that my dad taught me. People already commenting, hey, Sal, good to see you. Good morning, Marlene. Love that people are tuning in and watching. But I determined at a young age, and my older sister, Debbie, who is now in heaven and left this world over 20 years ago, was the first one in my family, my siblings, my oldest sister, to go out at 15 years old and get a job. She got a job as a janitor in a restaurant so she could buy a car. She wanted to buy a car, a little white 65 Mustang. So she went out and got a job as a janitor so she could get the things that she wanted in life. So at 14, I ended up going out and getting a job. That job didn't last. It was an illegal under the table job. That place is no longer there. So they're not in trouble for any of that. But hey, I was hustling. I wanted to make some money on my own. And I was good at it, and they split tips with me, and I went out and bought school clothes for myself. So that was one small beginning. But from there, I went on, and I wanted to work at a local supermarket at McKay's Market. There's actually another social media influencer, Brad Lee, dropping bombs with Brad Lee, another show here on YouTube. He's on Instagram, and he was from the Pacific Northwest, just like I was. Different Lee, spelled L-E-A, where L-E-E. And I wanted to work at McKay's Market. Brad actually lived in the city where the owners of McKay's Market was, and had a lot of friends that worked there when he was a kid. I wanted to work at McKay's Market. That's where all the cool kids worked. So I got a job at McKay's Market, and I wanted to get a job there earlier, but I was too young, so I had to wait a year until I was old enough to go to work at McKay's Market. So I got a job at McKay's Market as a box boy, and a box boy was a sacker. You basically did everything they told you to do. You sacked and carried groceries, took them out to the car for the customers, and then you also swept and cleaned and mopped the store. You also stocked shelves. And then I got promoted to a department, and I became what's called a department head. And I was over popping beer and dairy, and I would stock all the sodas and beer, everything that was for sale in that aisle. So that particular section became my responsibility. And then on truck nights, everyone would pitch in and we'd do trucks. And I wasn't old enough to get a car yet, so I saved my money and I went out and I bought a bike, and I would ride my bike back and forth to work. And we lived a few miles out in the country. So I would ride my bike to school in the morning, go to work, and ride my bike home in the dark late at night when we got done at the store. And I realized that I was pretty good at that. And I had a manager there named Jim Cornish, and Jim Cornish had a meeting with all of us stalkers and box boys one day, and he was standing there, and it was when you could still smoke, and Jim Cornish was smoking, standing up front in the store, leaning on a display, and he said, I want to tell y'all a story, just much like I am now. And his story was, hey man, I never graduated high school. Good morning, Christine. Good to see you. So good to spend a week with you and the family last week. Thank you for watching every week. Love you. So Jim tells the story, standing there with a foot up on a display, smoking a cigarette, and says, I never graduated high school. I put my head down and I walked fast, and I acted like I knew what I was doing and where I was going. And you know what? When I applied myself like that, people started to promote me because I looked like I knew what I was doing. And whether you succeed in school, go on and get an education, a college education after high school, I want to tell all you young guys, if you'll simply have a work ethic, start where you are, work hard, and act like you got some sense, you could be successful in life. Jim was the store manager and had a lot of years of success running that store. Everyone in town knew Jim Cornish and the family for years. I took that ethic and applied it to my life, and I moved to Texas. Within just a couple of short years, Aaron Simons and his wife Tylynn and myself, we all up and moved. I went and worked at a church for about a year, teaching, driving, cleaning, playing a little bit of piano, singing. Worked at a church for a pastor, and that work at that time just wasn't for me. And I moved home, and Aaron and I ran a gas station called the Town Pump. So Aaron and I became the two guys that ran the gas station. He was the manager. I was the assistant manager at that point. And we moved to Texas on a great idea that we were going to make tons of money and be rich living in Texas. So at 20 years old, we uprooted ourselves, moved to Texas. And within a very short time, I went and got a job at a Pizza Hut, slinging pizzas, making pizzas, waiting on tables, cooking. And that wasn't enough. So I went and got a job at a convenience store, very much like the one I'm standing in front of right now on a street corner. And I worked the night shift at a convenience store in Grape Creek, Texas. The three of us shared a car. We towed it behind a U-Haul, Aaron's Camaro. And I would drop Aaron off at work, and I would take his car, and I would go to work out in the country. Then I would get back and pick him up. And then I'd go to the street corner where I got a third job. We had to make ends meet. I went and got a third job selling gifts, toys, and novelties on a street corner in San Angelo, Texas. We sold everything from electronics to remote control cars to martial arts gifts and novelties like nunchucks and fake ninja swords and baby carriages and dolls for little girls. And you know what? I was really good at it. And I was tired and I was hungry. But I knew I had to make my way in the world. So I would work that job for about 5 to 6 hours a day. And then I'd go get about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And I'd get up and I'd pull my tired body out of bed and I'd go back to work at Pizza Hut. And then I'd get off at Pizza Hut and I'd go back to work all night at the convenience store. And then I'd get off at the convenience store and maybe sleep for 2 or 3 hours, and I'd go back to work on the street corner just like this one. And it taught me this lesson in life. Good morning, Lenny. It's good to see you on here. A lot of people watching. I've heard so many people this week, people I haven't talked to in years, that said, hey, I was helping a friend yesterday find a rent house for a client. And she said, hey, I watch your show. It motivates me every week. Keep it up. And I haven't talked to this lady in 2 years. Those things bless me. But anyway, working on that street corner, it taught me, don't despise small beginnings. No matter where you have to start in life, wherever you find yourself, if it's standing on a street corner selling toys to the clients and customers of a convenience store, that's okay, because it gives you a place to start learning to ply your trade, a place for you to start becoming better at being a good person. Everything in life is sales, and I've told you that before in the past, right? Everything in life is sales. You're selling yourself. But you want to know what the big thing I learned about all of that is to be proud of where I came from. I came from a small town on the Oregon coast, and I started learning to work like my dad worked. My dad worked hard. He worked multiple jobs, and my mom worked to support 5 kids. I'm proud to be from Bandon, Oregon. I'm proud to have started selling toys on a street corner in San Angelo, Texas, working 2 more jobs to put food on the table, to pay, to make it in this world. And now I'm proud to say that, I have a real estate career. I run my own team. I work for the #1 cloud brokerage in America, eXp Realty, and I'm absolutely grateful and blessed. But if I can come from standing on a street corner in San Angelo, Texas, moving here at 20 years old from a town of 2,300 people on the Oregon coast, without anything so much as a high school graduation. That's right. I never graduated high school. I finished high school, and they gave me a certificate that says Patrick Lee finished high school. They came to me in the middle of my senior year and said, "Hey, Patrick, you in our records you failed to finish one of your electives your freshman year, and you're going to have to come to summer school and take another class after graduation to get your diploma." And I was livid. I was infuriated that they waited till late in my senior year to give me that news, to give me a chance to make it up earlier in my school time. And I became angry with my school system, and I said, you know what, forget it. A certificate of completion is enough for me. I don't need your diploma. I got my cap and gown. I was still able to walk across the stage while they handed me my certificate of completion. But you know what I remembered? I remember Jim Cornish telling me, Patrick, you don't have to graduate high school to have a life. You don't have to go on and get a college degree to have a life. You can put your head down. You can work hard. You can walk fast like you know where you're going, and people will promote you in life. And that's the work ethic that I took to heart. The work ethic of my dad, the work ethic of Jim Cornish, the work ethic of a lot of people that helped mold me and mentor me when I was a young man trying to find my way in the world. So at 20 years old, 2,000 miles away from home, I learned what work ethic was. And if you want to get ahead in this world, if you want to see yourself standing on a street corner someday years from now, I made multiple 6 figures last year. I'm not a millionaire. I haven't made 7 figures, but I'm on my way. You know what I mean? Don't despise small beginnings. Be proud of where you came from, because where you came from was the small beginning that was the stepping stone to where you're going to be today. Hey, man, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in this week. This has been Patrick Lee with Midweek Motivation Live. Don't despise small beginnings. Just remember, you have to begin somewhere. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.